that glitters isn't gold. A rapper with a promising future, a loving father and friend, 29-year-old musician Rahim Grant has been murdered and his girlfriend is a prime suspect. What happened to this seemingly loving relationship that led to a shocking crime of love, betrayal, and murder? What happens when love turns fatal? This is the Fatal Attraction Podcast with Last Words, Rahim Grant.
He was a rapper on the rise.
He was in demand, and we were everywhere.
Hey, we on the way to the next destination. Y'all get ready.
His talent was undeniable.
He was really on his way.
She was his #1 fan.
She really did support his dreams and his goals.
She was his muse.
But then, the music stopped.
There was a pool of blood gathering around him.
I couldn't believe it. It got to be a nightmare.
Would this up-and-coming rapper's career end before it really got started?
There might have been some type of abuse.
She knew that he wasn't good for her.
Or would he have one last video to drop?
The detectives had really never seen anything like this.
It made me so angry.
Y'all see this?
This was a horror movie in real life.
December 29th, 2017. It's a typical Friday in Riverdale, Georgia, a small Atlanta suburb of just over 15,000.
Riverdale is mostly a quiet community, about 45 minutes outside of the city of Atlanta. Very family-friendly, a nice place really to raise a family.
Riverdale is one of the safest communities on the southern part of the metropolitan area.
However, tonight is a different story. It's a few minutes before 11 p.m. when Clayton County 911 receives an urgent call.
Yeah, I'd like to report a shooting. I just heard shots in my complex.
Officers arrive on the scene minutes later.
This was a gated community, very nice condominiums, sort of middle-class folks that lived there.
Not an area you would think to find a lot of crime.
Ma'am, where heard the shots come from?
That's the apartment. That's where I heard the shots come from.
Okay, thank you. Go back inside the house, please.
The shocked resident directs officers to a second-floor unit, home of Rahim Grant, his girlfriend Sierra Harp, and their 3-year-old daughter.
They seemed like a normal and happy couple. They spent a lot of time together. They was raising a daughter.
But as officers make their way into the apartment, they find the first clue that something has gone horribly wrong.
When police arrived, they immediately found a gruesome scene.
There was a trail of blood on the ground, leading down the hallway.
Rahim was laying in the floor with a pool of blood gathering around him.
He was riddled with gunshot wounds.
He had already succumbed to his injuries.
But there was no sign of Sierra or the couple's 3-year-old child.
36 Alpha. Go ahead and start major crimes.
Who has targeted this star on the rise? As police race to find their shooter, they have no idea that they may already be closer than they think. 28-year-old Rahim Grant had spent his whole life chasing a dream.
Rahim's #1 love was music.
He just loved music. He started with his drums at 5 years old, then he went to the keyboard.
He started rapping at an early age, too, performing on a local TV show that his mother produced.
Rahim was the educational rapper in that show, and he would come on and teach the kids. He went on from there to appear on Showtime at the Apollo, and from Showtime at the Apollo, he went on to do all type of events.
By 2012, he'd grown into a serious artist.
He became not only just a rapper, but an engineer, a producer. He knew how to go into a studio. He could mix, master, record, and help you with your lyrics and everything.
He was also making a name for himself in the Atlanta rap scene.
Artists like him who are up and coming, they get local fame first because they're always in the nightclubs. They're out promoting themselves.
He knew some of the biggest rap names here in the Atlanta area.
He got to know artists like Ludacris, Big Boy, Goody Mob, really everybody in the industry.
Rahim's music career wasn't the only thing heating up for the rising star, though. He was also lucky in love after a chance encounter with 28-year-old Sierra Harp in 2013.
She said she saw him and said, "Oh my goodness, he is so fine. I gotta have him." So she went over where he was and she introduced herself. And she told him, I know you. I've seen you before.
Rahim played it cool, like there was no big thing that she recognized him.
Soon, Sierra and Rahim were seeing one another, casually.
She was dealing with a whole lot of other guys, and he had a conglomerate of people around him, girls especially.
But within a few months, their casual relationship had taken a serious turn.
Sierra told Rahim she was pregnant.
We went and did the blood test, and it came out to be his, and he was just shocked, like, I can't believe this.
However, once his little girl was born, Rahim's shock turned to devotion.
He looked at her, he said, "Okay, come on, shawty. You're gonna have to hang with daddy now." And from that day on, he took her everywhere.
Sierra was just as devoted to Rahim.
She was in love with him. She supported him in his craft.
We made her like, a part of the family.
While Sierra bonded with Rahim's mother, he embraced fatherhood.
He became a totally different person. He became in dad mode, and he started to get away from just having a fun as opposed to, I have a daughter and now I have to take responsibility.
He's a loving father who was getting his life on the right track.
However, even as Rahim and Sierra were putting down roots, his rap career was about to blow up.
He was in demand, and we were everywhere.
His mom was his manager. Sierra was his #1 fan, really, and he was really on his way.
He was getting ready to go to Vegas, and he was getting ready to tour.
They were looking forward to big and better things coming for Rahim.
But Rahim's breakthrough tour would never happen. Responding to a 911 call, police have just found the rapper's bullet-riddled body on the floor of his apartment hallway.
Rahim was dead. There was no way to really save him.
But where are Sierra and the couple's 3-year-old daughter?
Looking around, officers noticed a trail of blood that led out of the apartment.
Police follow the blood to a neighboring unit in the building, where they find Sierra covered in blood.
She was in bad shape. She had stab wounds to her body.
And when the officers ask Sierra what happened, she's anything but clear.
You don't know what I've been through.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
At the end of 2017, Rahim Grant and his girlfriend, Sierra Harp, were poised to conquer the music world.
Rahim had some traction in his career. He was starting to gain some fame.
He was just about to go on a tour around the country with his music.
But just a few days before the new year begins, Rahim and Sierra's fantasy life has turned into a nightmare.
After officers responded to a report of shots fired, police found Rahim dead in his apartment.
Police find Sierra in a neighbor's apartment, alive but bloody and battered.
They have to figure out, did these two people attack each other or did someone attack these two people?
Unfortunately, Sierra is in no condition to help them.
You don't know what I've been through.
Sierra was in an emotional state that was somewhat uncontrollable.
Police couldn't get a coherent answer out of her.
Hey, what's going on?
Things are further confused when an EMT arrives to aid Sierra.
She was stabbed several times in the leg. Cuts to her lower extremity, both legs had wounds on them.
They actually had to take her to a hospital.
The couple's 3-year-old daughter is taken to the hospital too.
Sierra and Rahim's daughter appeared unharmed, but EMTs still wanted to give her a full evaluation.
While the EMTs transport Sierra and her daughter to the emergency room, homicide detectives from the Clayton County Sheriff's Department arrive on the scene.
They start taking notes on what evidence needs to be collected. All those things will help and lead to a greater chance of solving the crime.
Detectives also talk to the neighbor who lives in the apartment where the officers found Sierra.
So, how did Sierra come to be at your apartment this evening?
Well, I heard gunshots, and I was about to call 911 when Sierra showed up at my door.
She runs over to the neighbor's house. She's running to safety.
Any idea what happened?
No, I just heard shots, and then she showed up.
She did tell police that Sierra gave her a gun.
The detectives take the gun, a .380 automatic, into evidence.
Police asked that neighbor if Sierra would ever shoot Rahim if they had any problems whatsoever.
Well, they seemed like a perfect couple to me. Their little girl was precious.
From the neighbors, detectives retrace Sierra's steps to where Rahim lies dead inside their apartment.
As you walk into the apartment, he was lying face down.
Detectives find a bloody knife on the bathroom counter, not far from Rahim's body.
It wasn't a kitchen knife. It was clearly a weapon with a sharp, double-edged blade.
Other evidence allows detectives to tentatively reconstruct what happened.
They found evidence that was indicative of a struggle. There was blood stains, there was holes in the wall, and he was laying in the floor, partially straddling the entrance to the bathroom.
The mirror that was right behind Rahim's body was shattered into pieces.
There's little to indicate exactly why the shooting occurred, but detectives have a hunch.
It could appear that this was a domestic incident, but it would be irresponsible to jump to conclusions based on what you have in front of you. You try to look at how the person lived and see if the lifestyle might have contributed to what happened that evening.
Rahim was up and coming in the Atlanta rap scene. Detectives had to consider the possibility that this was some kind of beef or altercation with another rapper.
Then, detectives find evidence that potentially rules out the theory that the shooter came from outside.
They found several .380 caliber shell casings around his body, which right away matched the gun they found at the neighbors.
This suggested that Sierra was in fact the one to shoot Rahim, but it still wasn't clear why. It all appeared to line up with a self-defense type shooting.
On the floor near his body, detectives recover what they believe is Rahim's phone.
There's a passcode on it, so they can't get into it right away.
Elsewhere in the apartment, detectives also find a small amount of marijuana.
It appeared to be Rahim's personal stash.
Next, detectives speak with a neighbor who had called the shooting in to the police. She says that she's shocked by what's happened.
The neighbors only had good things to say about Rahim and Sierra.
But does this seemingly happy couple have a deadly secret?
Detectives really needed to talk to Sierra.
Detectives wondered if there was a history of abuse. Could Rahim have attacked her? Was that how she ended up with stab wounds on her legs?
The first responding officer He thought it was self-defense.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
One morning, you just walk in with a bag of everyone's faves from McDonald's, drop it on the counter, and say, breakfast is on me. Boom! That's the power of saving money on the McDonald's app. Hope you can handle all that. Save money with the app. At participating McDonald's, must opt into rewards.
In the early morning hours of December 30th, 2017, detectives in Clayton County, Georgia are struggling to unravel the mystery behind the death of Rahim Grant. The up-and-coming rapper had been shot dead the night before in his suburban Atlanta apartment, possibly by his girlfriend, 28-year-old Sierra Harp.
After the shooting, Sierra fled to a neighbor's apartment, clutching the gun and covered in stab wounds.
Sierra's injuries required medical treatment, but they were not life-threatening.
Later that afternoon, while waiting for Sierra to be released from the hospital, detectives review the results from Rahim's autopsy.
According to the autopsy, he was shot 6 times.
However, that's not all that the autopsy found.
Rahim had some lacerations that might be indicative of being cut with some type of sharp blade.
Coupled with the stab wounds Sierra suffered, the findings point to several scenarios.
He may have stabbed himself.
It's not uncommon for a knife-wielding assailant to accidentally cut themselves during a struggle.
You can tell by the apartment that there had been some type of altercation.
But to know what really happened, detectives need to talk to Sierra. As soon as she's released from the hospital, they bring her into the station to make a formal statement.
So we didn't really get a chance to talk, obviously, because there's a lot going on. But can you tell me exactly what happened?
I don't remember how anything started.
According to Sierra, Rahim was in the living room, relaxing.
She told police that Rahim was intoxicated and on Xanax when this all started.
Although Sierra says that's typically not a problem.
I didn't mind because I knew that with him being on Xanax, he's a difficult person to deal with.
Sierra told police that Rahim was violent.
The abuse started, I want to say, after I had my daughter. No, it was before that because he beat me while I was pregnant with my daughter.
Sierra told police that Rahim had beaten her for the 4 years they had been together.
But you kept going back.
Yes, I did because I loved him, and I wanted things to work.
Not one time did she file a report. Not one time did she complain to authorities that he had beaten her.
The relationship they have is somewhat of a roller coaster. They had their ups and downs.
But Sierra says that on Friday night, the couple's roller coaster had taken a final, fatal plunge. And according to Sierra, it had started with another woman.
That night, Sierra was there cooking dinner, and Rahim had this fitness trainer that he was good friends with. And the fitness trainer came over.
Her name was Trisha Williams.
They were so-called gym buddies.
When Sierra mentioned Trisha, detectives immediately wondered if they were dealing with a love triangle.
According to Sierra, the answer is no.
She would come over and buy weed like 2 or 3 times.
Sierra said Rahim sold a little weed on the side.
Sierra says that before Trisha came over, Rahim had asked her to check on their daughter in the bedroom.
He just said, I'm about to take care of some business, and I just said, okay.
Sierra says that she spent several minutes in the bedroom, but that Rahim had eventually called her back into the living room.
Oh, Sierra?
What?
What you doing back here?
He called me out of the room while she was there, and so I just walked back to the room.
Right.
However, according to Sierra, it was a fatal mistake.
One thing Sierra pointed out is that Rahim hated to be ignored.
Yo, what's your problem?
The brush-off was enough to enrage Rahim.
Sierra said that as she was making her way back to the bedroom, Rahim confronted her.
He said something, I don't remember what he was saying.
Did you fight him?
No, I did not. I knew better than do that. The first time I ever tried to hit him back, he knocked my ass unconscious.
I mean, let's talk about it.
Next, Sierra says the more she tried to defuse the situation, the angrier Rahim became.
Okay. I mean, if that's what it takes.
She said he was so mad with her until it was uncontrollable.
Trisha heard the fight and then left in a hurry.
With Trisha gone, Sierra says Rahim became even more violent.
He came after me and he hit me. He hit me 2 to 3 times. I felt the force.
Sierra says that when she hit the floor, her knife fell out of her pocket.
She said she carried a knife routinely for self-protection.
But Sierra says that on the night he died, Rahim had turned the knife on her.
He said, "Oh, so you were gonna stab me?" And I'm screaming, "No, I wasn't gonna stab you."
Sierra says that Rahim, high and enraged, had ignored her pleas.
According to Sierra, Rahim started stabbing at her leg.
He was trying to stab me in my stomach, but I brought my knees up to where he couldn't stab me in my stomach.
She told police that she was kicking her legs, trying to kick him away.
Detectives suspected that this may have been how the knife ended up cutting Rahim.
With Rahim wounded, Sierra says that she tried to scramble to her feet.
I was trying to push myself up off the ground to get up, and I was feeling around because I had blood and tears in my eyes.
As Sierra fumbled around, her hand brushed something.
She said she came in contact with a gun.
Where's the gun normally?
On him, in his pocket.
During the struggle, that weapon fell out.
And according to Sierra, what happened next was pure instinct.
I couldn't see anything. I just started shooting. Wherever I heard him, I wasn't trying to kill him.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
One morning, you just walk in with a bag of everyone's faves from McDonald's, drop it on the counter, and say, breakfast is on me. Boom! That's the power of saving money on the McDonald's app. Hope you can handle all that. Save money with the app. At participating McDonald's, must opt into rewards.
Questioned by detectives after her release from the hospital, 28-year-old Sierra Harp has just confessed to killing her boyfriend, Rahim Grant, an up-and-coming rap artist and the father of Sierra's child.
I don't even remember seeing the gun. I was just feeling around on the floor, and that's when I felt it. And I grabbed it, and I just started shooting.
Her story is, he assaulted her. She picked that gun up to defend herself, and she fired several shots.
And I just remember shooting, and I turned around, and I grabbed my daughter, and I ran.
According to Sierra, she didn't even learn that Rahim was dead until the next day in the hospital.
I didn't mean to do it.
In the interview, Sierra appeared quite distraught about what happened.
I love that boy so much.
Is Sierra telling the truth? Her injuries appear to fit with the struggle she described.
This was a chaotic moment. She was kicking at Rahim and getting stabbed in the legs.
However, Sierra's claims of prior abuse are more difficult to substantiate.
There was no history of violence, no real history of even them arguing.
There is no documentation or indication before this incident that there was a level of violence in the relationship.
Sierra also claimed that Rahim was selling marijuana, but if that was true, he'd never been arrested for it.
There is some rumors, but he was a young male in the rap game.
Everybody knew how he was. He was the rapper, and his persona was to be hardcore.
Who was the real Rahim? To answer that question, detectives first turned to the other young woman Sierra claimed was in the apartment the night that he died, Rahim's gym buddy, Trisha Williams.
When detectives brought her in for questioning, she confirmed that she did go over to Rahim's on the night of the shooting.
However, Trisha denies going over to the apartment to buy drugs.
So what were you doing over here at his apartment?
I was just there listening to the new tracks that he said. That was it.
Which, according to Trisha, didn't go over well with Sierra.
She says Sierra comes up and just says hi and goes back into the room. She's obviously upset.
Trisha says that Rahim, equally irritated with Sierra, had followed her down the hallway.
She doesn't stay long because she feels like, hey, I got to get out of here. Something's going on.
Although according to Trisha, she had no idea what happened next.
She didn't hear any shooting. She didn't hear anything really happen after the fight.
For detectives, Trisha's statement raises new questions.
Trisha's story, more or less, lined up with Sierra's account of what happened. But it may have suggested that there is some jealousy and anger on Sierra's part.
Was Sierra the innocent victim she claimed to be? Detectives turned to Rahim's mother in hopes that she can shed some light on her son's relationship with Sierra.
Rahim and his mother were very close. The mother was Rahim's manager.
When Geraldine Bryson comes down to the station for an interview, she's still struggling to process the news of her son's death.
I couldn't believe that it was like a dream. I'm like, it gotta be a nightmare.
The identity of her son's killer is an even bigger shock.
I would have thinking that it was like a guy or something that he had probably gotten into it with other, rappers, hating on one another.
But when detectives explain the details of how Rahim supposedly died, his mother's shock turns to anger, and she offers a new theory.
It just hit me. She murdered him.
Murdered my son.
Why do you say that?
Because their relationship was basically over. He was only hanging in there for the sake of his daughter.
Rahim's mother told police that Sierra was not handling Rahim's fame too well and didn't like all of this newfound attention.
She was just getting so possessive.
Sierra will often get jealous and also paranoid.
If a girl or something came on and his Facebook and she saw him, she would say, "Why are you talking to my boyfriend? That's my man and that's my baby daddy and you better leave him alone."
Rahim's mother says she'd urged her son to end the relationship.
It was toxic. She was obsessive, she was jealous, and I tried to get him to see that.
His mother also says that in recent months, Rahim had come to realize that she was right.
He said, "You're just gonna be the mother of my child. That's what you are, and that's just it."
But Rahim's mother also says Sierra didn't seem willing to accept the impending breakup.
He was saying that, she had made a statement that, I could just tell the police you did something to me, and then they would come and arrest you.
Fearing Sierra might follow through on her threat, Rahim's mother says she'd offered her son some advice.
Now, so listen to me. If you feel uncomfortable at any point in time, just video everything. That way, if the police come, then you'll have some backup for you to tell what happened.
But now Rahim's mother wondered if her son's phone would reveal the truth about his death.
I told them, "Have you checked his phone?"
There might be proof that could help with this case.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
One morning, you just walk in with a bag of everyone's faves from McDonald's, drop it on the counter, and say, breakfast is on me. Boom! That's the power of saving money on the McDonald's app. Hope you can handle all that. Save money with the app. At participating McDonald's, must opt into rewards.
A little more than 72 hours after Sierra Harp shot and killed her boyfriend, Rahim Grant, inside their suburban Atlanta apartment, detectives are starting to suspect Sierra didn't act in self-defense.
Rahim's mother had revealed that her son and Sierra were in the process of breaking up.
I knew she had intended to murder him. I saw the obsession that she had, and it was like, if I can't have him, no one will.
Rahim's mother also suspects the proof may be on her son's phone.
I told them, I said, my son records everything.
Detectives had taken Rahim's phone into evidence, but there was one problem.
They couldn't get into it. It had a code on it.
But Rahim's mother thinks there may be a way around the passcode.
He had a SoundCloud that he would tell me about, and he's told me that he was going to save everything to his SoundCloud because everywhere he went, he recorded it, and it has enough storage. So I told him, about the storage.
Detectives serve a search warrant to the cloud storage company and soon have access to everything Rahim recorded, including the night he died.
There are actually 4 videos, 4 separate videos.
They'd automatically been uploaded to Rahim's cloud account.
They got a treasure trove of evidence. Nothing is more reliable than recorded video.
The story the videos tell is very different from what Sierra claimed.
Police look at the first video and immediately they see Rahim actually holding up the phone, covered in blood.
I see this.
He told the camera, "Look at what Sierra did to me. She stabbed me."
In her statement, Sierra had suggested that Rahim accidentally cut himself while he assaulted her.
Look at this knife. I see that. See how Hart did this.
As the video plays, detectives see exactly what happens next.
All of a sudden, you see Sierra come into the video. She comes and she has a gun, and she fires that gun at him.
You hear gunshots, then you hear the glass shatter.
That was the bullet that shattered the bathroom mirror.
Rahim falls to the floor, his phone dropping with him, but it keeps recording.
She's screaming, "You abuse me, you're this and you're that," and she's cursing, using every level of profanity.
Don't do this. You know that I love you.
She continues to scream, and then there's another shot.
At some point, you had to know that you was being recorded. She had to see him with the cell phone, but that had no effect on her decision.
I'm dead, baby. I'm dead.
Seconds later, the first video stops, but Rahim was wrong. He's not dead, and his ordeal is just beginning. 2 minutes after the first video ends, a second begins.
He's been beating me for the past 4 years.
And this time, Sierra was holding the camera.
This was real, and it was live, and it was happening, and it just wouldn't stop.
And contrary to her previous claims, Sierra certainly isn't doing anything to stop what's happening.
Loved you.
She never tried to provide any assistance or mitigate his injuries after she caused them.
Sierra had a phone, and Rahim was on the floor, shot and bleeding, but she didn't dial 911 or do anything to save him.
He's telling her to call me. He said, "Call my mom. We're gonna just say it's an accident." And she's like, "Hell no, I'm not calling."
She's telling Rahim that she's sick of him and sick of his abuse.
And you abused me, and you know that! You know that! And yeah, you mistreated me!
The whole time, he was more so trying to negotiate her down to keep her from doing this.
You hear him, he's telling Sierra to please stop, telling her that he'll tell police that it was all him.
I'm gonna tell her it was an accident.
He even begs for his daughter. He wants to hold his daughter one last time.
Please let me kiss her, please.
Then you hear Sierra tell him no. If he wants to see his daughter, he's gonna have to crawl to her.
You can kiss her, crawl to her.
She was just angry, and it came across on the video.
The third video made it clear that Sierra didn't care about consequences.
They gonna lock you up for life. I don't care.
It was difficult to watch.
Everything about this video is awful.
But the worst is yet to come.
My grandbaby was in it.
You hear their child in the background, call out for her father.
That 3-year-old little girl, she had to watch her father die.
She saw the fear in his daughter's eyes, and then that's when she shot him again.
More secrets are revealed once we return with more Fatal Attraction.
Detectives have just uncovered shocking videos of Sierra Harp taunting her dying boyfriend as she shoots him again and again.
In those videos, you see her shooting him while he begs for his daughter. And she continues to shoot.
It wasn't like I thought it would be bang, 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 he was dead. No, I had to endure 19 minutes. And just to watch that, I am just heartbroken, just made.
The detectives actually said that the videos stopped them in their tracks. They said they had really never seen anything like this.
But Sierra still isn't done. After Rahim is dead, she records one more video.
I do not care if I go to jail for the rest of my life. I do not care what happens to me because I love you.
For Rahim's mother, there's no mistaking the meaning of Sierra's final statement.
She just decided to be wicked and evil and just want to kill him because if you couldn't have him, no one else will.
But for detectives, the videos reveal something else.
There was absolutely no evidence that Sierra acted in self-defense.
Sierra said that the injuries to her legs was caused before she even fired a single shot. But if you watch the video, as she appeared in the video, you can see on her legs there are no injuries.
Instead, detectives believe there's a far more damning explanation for the injuries Sierra suffered.
They believe she actually took a knife and stabbed her own legs to make herself look like she was the victim.
How could anybody be that cold-hearted and to do this and then turn around playing the victim and knowing what you had done?
Now that detectives know the truth, they place Sierra under arrest for murder.
They caught her in all kinds of lies.
When the case goes to trial in May of 2019, Rahim's mother is determined to see Sierra pay.
This was her only son. She loved that boy. And for him to be taken away like this, it drove her mad. And she wanted justice.
It was a murder. She plotted, she planned it, and she carried it out.
She can't deny any of it because it's right there on video. The jury got to see exactly what happened.
Although everyone in the courtroom has a hard time believing what they're seeing.
They looked at Sierra and they were thinking, how could this sweet, young, beautiful woman be so vicious?
When it's the defense's turn, Sierra and her attorneys try to offer an explanation.
Sierra testified that she was very drunk that night, awfully inebriated. And she says that none of this would have happened if she had been sober.
It made me mad. It made me so angry at her because she was not a drinker. She wanted to try to get somebody to be sympathetic to her. The only reason I didn't really go up and just slap her on the witness stand was because I had to get justice for him.
Rahim's mother won't have long to wait. After only a few hours of deliberation, the jury makes its decision.
The jury reviewed those videos and found Sierra guilty of murder.
The evidence against Sierra was overwhelming.
When it's her turn to speak, Sierra does her best to make amends with Rahim's mother.
She apologized to me for what she had done, and she didn't mean to do it. And I told her, yes, you did. You showed no mercy for my son, Sierra, and I should ask the court to show no mercy for you.
Sierra's mom also speaks at her daughter's sentencing.
You reveled in disrespect, foolery, and ignorance. Wherever you went, chaos and trouble was sure to follow.
Her mother wanted her to be locked up for the maximum that the law would allow.
Can you imagine that? A mother has that type of animosity toward her daughter.
It's animosity that Sierra clearly shares.
Sierra sat there as her mother spoke, and she had the meanest glare. She stared her mother down as if, how could you? And then our cameras caught her saying the B word to her mother.
But will her mother's statement or Sierra's angry reaction have any influence on the outcome of her sentencing?
Sierra was sentenced to 125 years behind bars.
That judge, I believe his words were that she was a menace and she didn't deserve to walk the streets again.
Although even 125 years isn't enough to satisfy a mother who's lost her only son.
Jail is too good for her. I thought she should have got the death penalty. And a lot of people be like, you have to forgive her. No, I don't have to forgive her. My son meant so much to me. It was like my whole world just got destroyed.
But as heartbreaking as her loss is, Rahim's mother isn't the only one suffering.
I keep thinking about that 3-year-old little girl, how she loved Rahim. He was her world and she was his.
She would be like, just talking about, my daddy is gone, I miss my daddy, gee, Ma, I want my daddy back. Do we have a phone in heaven where I can call him?
The cold-hearted murder of up-and-coming rapper and father Rahim Grant has left a child, a family, and a community devastated, leaving music lovers without a chance to see his talent and ultimate rise, reminding us all that it's a thin line between love and hate. Coming up on the next episode of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
She was beautiful, gorgeous. She was special in so many ways. She was like the apple of everybody's eye.
But she only had eyes for him.
She liked the way he looked.
He's a very charismatic man.
They were the perfect couple to me.
Until the day their relationship ended in a hail of bullets.
When my girlfriend just got shot.
7 shots rang out, leaving behind a web of deceit, $500,000 in cash, a fatal love triangle, and a brutal murder. What happened to July Johnson? Tune in to the next episode of the Fatal Attraction podcast. We will see you in the next episode.